Hello, I'm Hua. Today, I will introduce how to write comfyUI nodes. We go to Google and search comfyUI. The first one is the official website address, which is a GitHub link. Then we go to check the project documentation. Then we will see the installation instructions. Click the direct download link, which is an integration package with built-in environment. And you can start comfyUI when you open it. Open the home directory of comfyUI and open custom nodes comfyUI. Nodes this folder is where plugin files are stored. Now we can see a file named example node. Hi, example, which is an example of writing a node. This file needs to remove the example suffix to take effect. Click OK to change. Double-click to open this Python file and you will see the sample code. Next, enter the comfyUI home directory and run our UNNVIDIA GPU.
Let's open the sample code of a node just now.
Open the sample node with the right mouse button and comfyUI interface. Now, mark the code corresponding to the node name with a red line, which is also very easy to understand. The example in the comfyUI graphical interface corresponds to the example string in the example code and is mapped to the example code and is mapped because it is a variable. We can customize our favorite node name.
Now, we see the first paragraph of the sample code, which means to define a class named example. So we conclude that this is a rule of node output. Okay, let's look at the second code, which means the rules entered. Dictionary used to return input fields. Continue to look at the next code, which means calling image. Returning to the dictionary is the node that calls the defined string mapping. The nodes that call these string mappings are in the nodes. I file in the comfyUI home directory. Now we open it and look at it. Ctrl+F searches load image to see the corresponding code. Now what we see is the name of the mapped node, and the image on the right is the input made by calling this node. Okay, now that we understand the node principal structure of comfyUI, let's go back to the node directory of comfyUI and create a simple node demonstration. Practice is the only criterion to test the truth. Let's go. On the left is the sample code. Let's name the new node first. Pass the name to the class first. It can be a user-defined name. And the last line is the relationship between the directory and subdecretor cfees. Okay, now this class needs an input CLIP node, and it needs to specify the node name in the nodes. I followed comfyUI. It should be noted that the return class here needs to be consistent with the clip name of the node. I file in the comfyUI home directory. This comma should also be added. Next, we add a string input box returned by the graphical interface, and copy the writing method of the sample code directly. Next, write image as the output, which is the return types. Next, define the name of the function test. Next, the type name is defined to appear in the UI. The type name should be the same as the name mapped to the class below. Okay, after saving the code, now let's restart comfyUI to see if the corresponding content appears in the UI.
There is an error in the terminal now. Because my words are not written correctly, I will try again after modification. Okay, now we can see that the node runs successfully. Now let's take a look at the corresponding code. Image corresponds to the output port.
Clip is the Python code corresponding to the input. Hello world corresponds to the string field. The title of demo corresponds to the code of node name mapping.
Now that the node has only one input box, we need to add a negative prompt input box.
Next step, let's go to nodes. Hide to check the name of the calling clip type, and just copy it directly. The next step is to copy a rule code calling clip in the return code as the input box of the reverse prompt. Next, the name of the string mapping is changed to posttext and nettext, which is convenient for function coding and transmission. Next, let's define the function method of test, and the accepted parameters are in brackets, corresponding to the name of the type just returned by clip, and the name of the string mapping. Next, let's restart comfyUI to see if the plugin can run successfully. The next step is to build a simple workflow to test whether the nodes written by yourself can run normally. Now enter a positive prompt, then click reasoning, and wait a moment. Okay, now there is an error. Don't worry. Let's look at the code and solve these problems. Okay, back to the plugin source go. We will find that the parameters of the defined test function are not highlighted. indicating that there is no coding rule defined. We need to go into the Python file of nodes in the main directory of comfyUI to check the coding method. We can just copy this string of codes directly, which is the coding method using the clip model. Okay, now we pass the function, encoded parameters to the string names of return types, which are specified in the above codes, namely post text and net text. Because the above code defines to positive and negative prompt input, we have to copy a function code and assign it to red text. Because the above code defines to positive and negative prompt input, we have to copy a function code and assign it to red text. Then we can save the code, restart comfyUI, and run the workflow to check whether there will be errors after defining all the explanations that need to be coded and transmitted. Now pass the encoded string life to token pass for the next line of code call. The coding of negative prompt words is the same as just now. Just replace the name with the name type of negative prompt words. Pass it to the defined name correctly, and then save and restart comfyUI. Okay, now we have reported an error. Let's go back to the code to check the problem. Because there is no summary output code output, change con to the name defined by the string, namely con pass and con net. Happy one line because it is encoded by two strings. Okay, now let's restart comfyUI to see if there will be any more errors.
Next step, let's switch to SDXL model to see if the effect of prompt words in images is consistent. Okay, now it's a perfect reasoning, and the tutorial is over. Remember to subscribe to my channel.
好啦，铁铁们记得给我一键三连，教程制作不易，小心白嫖。铁铁，一键三连啊！铁铁，三连，几个一键三连。